A few days ago, the NFL world was caught off guard when the Raiders announced they were releasing linebacker Germaine Pratt. No trade, no late-round pick swap, no conditions. Just a clean release. That kind of move doesn't happen for a player of Pratt's caliber unless there's something deeper brewing behind the scenes. Because, let's be honest, the Raiders could have easily squeezed a 6th or 7th round pick out of a team desperate for defensive help. So when they decided to let him walk for free, the question everyone started asking was simple. What's really going on inside that locker room? Almost immediately after Pratt's release, the Raiders front office wasted no time making follow-up moves. They signed linebacker Jon Rhattigan to the active roster and brought in Jamin Davis to the practice squad. At first glance, it seemed like routine roster reshuffling. But looking closer, these decisions tell a much bigger story about where Pete Carroll wants to take this team and how he's slowly building a defense in his own image. Rhattigan, after all, isn't just some random pickup. He's a player Carroll already knows and trusts from his Seattle days. And Jamin Davis? That's the wild card. A first-round talent who never quite found his footing in Washington but still oozes athletic upside that fits perfectly in a Carroll-style defense. To make space for these new additions, the Raiders quietly released quarterback Jeff Driscoll from the practice squad. That move might seem insignificant, but it reveals a lot about how the coaching staff views their current quarterback situation. Fans have been calling for Geno Smith's benching after a rocky stretch of games, yet this decision all but confirms the Raiders are sticking with him. Driscoll's departure leaves only two quarterbacks, Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett, on the depth chart. Aiden O'Connell's status remains uncertain, and Pickett hasn't exactly proven he can lead an offense yet. So for now, it's Geno's team, for better or worse. And given the circumstances, it's clear the Raiders are trying to stabilize their locker room rather than blow everything up mid-season. Of course, the rumors have already started swirling. Some believe the Raiders might look to the trade market if things get worse under center. Names like Russell Wilson have been thrown around, but honestly, that feels more like speculation than strategy. Wilson's been benched on his own team, and if Denver doesn't believe in him anymore, why should Vegas? Another name being mentioned is Shedeur Sanders, but he's still buried on the depth chart and hasn't shown anything close to being NFL ready. For now, it seems the Raiders are choosing patience over panic, a rare move in today's league. But the signing that really turned heads was Jamin Davis. Once a first-round pick out of Kentucky, Davis entered the NFL with all the tools, size, speed, and physicality, to become a game-changing linebacker. Standing at 6 feet 3 inches and 240 pounds, and running a 4.4 40-yard dash, Davis isn't just athletic. He's built like the modern prototype linebacker every coach dreams about. His problem has never been talent. It's been fit. In Washington, he played under multiple coaching staffs and systems that couldn't quite figure out how to use him. When Dan Quinn took over, he preferred hybrid safeties playing linebacker, and Davis was pushed out of position. It was only a matter of time before his release became inevitable. That's what makes this Raiders signing fascinating. Pete Carroll's defense is tailor-made for players like Davis. Fast, reactive, and aggressive. In a cover 3 scheme, linebackers are allowed to attack the ball rather than overthink their assignments. Davis now gets a clean slate in a system that rewards instincts over hesitation. Watching his old tape, you can see flashes of brilliance. Plays where he mirrors running backs out of the backfield, covers top-tier receivers in space, and uses his speed to break up passes that most linebackers wouldn't even get near. He's not perfect, his tackling angles can be inconsistent, but in the right hands, that raw athleticism could turn into something special. The Raiders are betting on potential here, and it might just pay off. Jon Rhattigan, the other new addition, doesn't bring the same kind of star potential, but he offers something equally valuable: stability. Rhattigan knows Carroll's playbook like the back of his hand. He's a coach's dream: disciplined, hard-working, and selfless. In a locker room that's clearly been fractured by attitude issues, especially after the Pratt situation, that kind of personality can help reset the tone. Carroll has always believed in culture before talent, and this signing screams of that philosophy. Rhattigan might not light up the stat sheet, but he brings trust, familiarity, and leadership, all qualities that this team desperately needs right now. As for Pratt himself, the story is slowly starting to come out. According to insiders, his release wasn't about performance, it was about attitude. Reports suggest Pratt had been clashing with coaches for weeks, talking back during meetings, and expressing frustration over being played out of position. He's always been more of a traditional off-ball linebacker, But the Raiders were asking him to take on more edge responsibilities, which didn't sit well with him. Whether it was ego or just frustration, it created enough tension for the coaching staff to make the tough call. Within 2 days, Pratt was picked up by the Colts, proving his talent was never in question. But in Las Vegas, the fit just wasn't there anymore. It's clear Pete Carroll is trying to reshape this defense in his own image. Fast, smart, and humble players who buy into the system. And while it may seem like the Raiders are quietly rebuilding, this might actually be the beginning of something bigger. Davis and Rattigan represent the type of defensive versatility Carroll loves. Together, they bring a mix of speed, familiarity, and adaptability that could transform the Raiders' defense heading into the second half of the season. Meanwhile, the offense remains a puzzle. Geno Smith continues to face criticism, but not everything can be pinned on him. 6 of his 9 interceptions this year were tipped at the line, flukes that make the stat sheet look uglier than it should. And it doesn't help that his best weapons have been sidelined. Tight end Brock Bowers has been battling injury since Week 1, but in the one game he was fully healthy, he went off for over 100 yards. Michael Myers' return from concussion protocol could be the spark this offense needs, especially in the red zone. When those two are both on the field, Geno has reliable targets who can fight for contested catches, something his current receiving core has struggled with. Dante Thornton, Jacoby Myers, and Trey Tucker have had flashes but haven't been consistent difference makers. Geno's been used to having stars like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett who could bail him out on tough throws. In Vegas, he's still waiting for that chemistry to develop. So where does all this leave the Raiders? Somewhere between frustration and potential. The roster moves, the subtle shifts, and even the tough decisions like releasing Pratt all point toward one thing: Pete Carroll's long game. He's not panicking. He's rebuilding a culture brick by brick, signing players who fit his philosophy and cutting those who don't. It's not flashy, but it's effective. And if the Raiders can get healthy, especially on offense, this team might not be as far off as people think. The real test comes this week against the Tennessee Titans. It's a winnable game, a chance to prove that the foundation Carroll is laying actually works. A win would not only silence critics but could also build the kind of momentum that changes a season's trajectory. But if they lose, then the questions about the future will only get louder. Still, you can feel a shift happening in Las Vegas. Quietly, methodically, the Raiders are being rebuilt into something tougher, smarter, and more disciplined.